Linux Action Show is created by Jupiter Broadcasting. It's sponsored by Ting. Go to last.ting.com to save off your first device or plan. And DigitalOcean. Go to digitalocean.com and use the promo code Here's the Thing, all one word like you're slurring it, and spin up your own Linux rig for free. And Linux Academy. Go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged and invest in your mind while saving some money. Welcome to the Linux Action Show, episode 443. My name is Chris.
My name is Noah.
Hello there, Noah. Guess what? Big show on this week's episode. I'm going to go down deep and inside, the QNAP series server that supposedly runs Ubuntu, and I walk away surprised with what it can do, and it was not what I was expecting at all. How's that for a tease? Stay tuned, that's coming up. And then in the news segment, we're going to talk about all of these supposed users that are suddenly flocking to Linux, why there actually may be some merit to this, and how the open source community is stepping up to make it a soft landing for those fleeing Apple users. That'll be coming up. Also, Ubuntu has an idea to solve all of our Internet of Terrible problems. We'll ask if it's actually legit, and we'll tell you what they plan. And then, towards the end of the news segment, we'll look ahead into the future towards Vulkan and virtual reality. Steam Dev Days just wrapped up. The videos are posted online, and I pulled out a couple of tidbits out of the hundreds of hours of video to show you guys that are related to Linux. And then we'll get to the feedback. But before all of that, Noah, do you know what we got?
We got the picks.
Who told you, dude? You nailed it. Good job. And I'll tell you, this first pick, I really think this is perfect for you. Forget Google Glass. I have the new accessory for you. It is an electric skateboard that is powered by Linux running on a Raspberry Pi.
Hello and welcome to the Raspberry Pi video by me, the Raspberry Pi guy. Today I thought that I'd show you my latest project, a fully functioning DIY electric skateboard. It is powered by a Raspberry Pi Zero and controlled over Bluetooth with a Nintendo Wii remote. This has been a really exciting build, and I've been able to get to speeds of around 30 kilometers an hour on the board, which feels like an awful lot more when you're actually riding it. So what makes this project tick? The board this is built around is a top-mounted longboard from Wholesome that I got from a European skate store called Sick Boards. I kitted the board out with some caliber trucks from Gravity Supplies, and then fitted this all out with a single 63mm Alien Power System brushless motor. This is an 80 amp, 170 kV, 3200 watt little power horse that goes plenty fast enough. The boxes on the bottom house and protect the electronics and the battery respectively.
Isn't this cool? And then he controls it all.
Really neat. As
he's riding, he controls it all with a Wii U Bluetooth remote. So he can accelerate and back up using the Wii remote.
That's ingenious in and of itself, because a lot of us have been training our mind to use a Wii remote or PlayStation remote, what have you, as a method of moving our avatar around. So now we're just moving ourselves around.
Yeah, and he's got some good video of him using it out on the streets, and the thing really moves. I mean, I probably knock myself on my butt riding on this thing, and so you can get all the information. I think they also have some code posted online and all this stuff, and I have the video linked in the show notes. And I look at this and I think to myself, this would be such a great way to get around a city. Like if I lived downtown, I think I'd rather do this than a bike or a Segway or a hoverboard.
What if you just sell me one of those?
Yeah, I know, right? I want one running Raspberry Pi. There he is using the Wii U remote. I want a Raspberry Pi powered one. That's pretty cool. So that's our Run Linux pick for this week. And we have more picks, a desktop app pick and a spotlight coming up. But first, I want to mention our first sponsor this week, and that's DigitalOcean. In fact, if you use the promo code Here's the Thing over at DigitalOcean, you get a $10 credit. You can try out their $5 rig, 2 months for free, or go hourly and really stretch it out. It's super cool because it's all SSD-backed droplets. They run on top of Linux with KVM as the virtualizer. They've got data centers in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, Toronto, Germany, India. It goes on, and they're always growing. And they have such a good interface to manage all of this. If you're an expert or a beginner, Ubuntu, FreeBSD, Debian, CentOS, CoreOS, they got tons of distros to choose from. They got lots of data centers. They got tons of nice configurations and a boatload of documentation to back you up. Or you can deploy entire application stacks if you want. Check it all out at digitalocean.com and use our promo code Here's the Thing. Also, I know how much you guys love your extensions, you extension crazy maniacs. I would recommend you check out the DigitalOcean Toolbox. This is a browser extension for Chrome and Firefox that allows you to manage all your droplets right there in your browser. So that's pretty cool too. DigitalOcean.com, use our promo code Here's the Thing, all one word like you're slurring it, at DigitalOcean. And big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. No, I'm a big news consumer, and this is something I could totally host on a DigitalOcean droplet now that I think about it. It's Fresh RSS, and it's like Google Reader or Lyfera, only it's your own hosted web version, and it's really nice. It's fast, it's responsive, and it doesn't have a ton of requirements. It's going to have anything you might have on your standard LAMP stack, Apache 2, PHP 5, MySQL 5, and a web browser. You can also use SQLite or Nginx, or, if you want to use something else on the back end, it's pretty flexible, like Light HTTPD. This is kind of it. That's the short. The short tagline they have is a free self-hosted aggregator that's probably the best, and I completely agree. Like, if you know what RSS is and you know why you might need a RSS reader, then I don't really need to say much. And if you want to try it, you can go to demo.freshrss.org. And right now, I'm showing you, if you're watching the video version, the night mode. And you can, I don't know if you were noticing, but as soon as I click the stories, they pop right up. Boom.
Yeah. It's super.
Yeah, this is really nice. You can favorite stuff. And I've tried like tiny RSS in the past, but it feels old and clunky, whereas this is really fast, imports my feeds. So check it out, freshrss.org or demo.freshrss.org if you want to try it out.
Very cool.
Now, last week, I was explaining that I'm looking for something to replace Simple Node and Evernote. Unlike you, I prefer to self-host my stuff. I don't want to rely on the cloud. And so I'm looking to bring some of my most important notes and documentation offline, locally on the device we're about to cover in the review segment. And so I've been looking for something to do that. And this week, I've come across FlatDock. I can't remember who sent this in to me, but I want to say thank you whoever did, because they brought it to my attention. And it is checking so many boxes for me. It's a small JavaScript file that fetches Markdown files on the fly and renders them as full HTML pages. Essentially, you get a web page generated without having to have server-side components, no build process needed. You can also use it to deploy via GitHub pages and fetch GitHub README files, which sounds like it could be pretty cool. It's got a responsive design, and it just creates HTML files for you on the fly. So you could potentially host it like out of your Dropbox or your SyncThing folder. I think this might have real potential for being my perfect offline, self-hosted. I can get to it over the LAN. All of the stuff renders client side, doesn't require any server components. I just drop it in a server on a folder. And plus, like I mentioned, Markdown support. So it's FlatDock. Right. The URL is kind of crazy, so go check out the link in the show notes. And it has theming support, and you can extend the Markdown support to fancier versions of Markdown if you want. And I really like it. So it's kind of nice. It's very simple, and it's a nice way to get started. FlatDock. What do you think of those picks? Huh?
I like it. I think the FlatDock appeals. I want to buy the skateboard thing, and I'm gonna have to give a serious look to FlatDock, because I wouldn't be opposed to jumping off a Simple Node. I'd say the real way that anyone can get me into it is if there's some way that we can start doing show notes in something other than Google Docs. I pretty much take anything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I wonder. I picture it more for like self-documentation and notes, and like things about like campsites and production notes and stuff like that. But
personal wiki kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's always what I've kind of been looking for. But I don't want to use like my own. I don't want to use an actual wiki, because there's lots of little wikis that I like that I've set up for clients. But I live Markdown all day long, so I write it second nature, and I don't really know wiki markup or whatever it's called very well. Whatever you call it, I can't see. I'm such a noob when it comes to that. I just don't want to do it. I want to write it in Markdown, and I really like the idea of writing a whole bunch of flat files, because if that project ever goes away, or I just decide I don't want to render it as HTML, I still have it all as flat files that I can use any other way I want. And that's always been the best way for me to do documentation long term, is offline text files that I can read in CAT, or I can render them in a web server. That appeals to me about it. So, okay. I just want to give a quick mention, because we spent too much time on it last week, but we are shipping the Linux Action Show Super Key sticker with any Linux Action Show sticker order. So you can get as many stickers as you want of any show, but if your order includes a Linux Action Show sticker, Angela is going to include a black and white and a colored super key, so you can hide up your shame on that. I actually have one on my keyboard right here because I just got like a keyboard that came with the case, this thermal take or whatever. There's
I can't believe you still have that one.
I know.
I'm honestly shocked because I just put it down there so that you'd have one to get it set up. But
it's loud. It's horrible.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a mute switch, I would have replaced it by now. But it has this big old Windows logo on it. And I just took one of these super key stickers and I just put it right over that, and it's nice now. And it fits right in the little enclave of the keyboards, so I like that. And it will just include it for free, no extra cost. If you go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/stickers and your order includes a Linux Action Show sticker, grab one. And we have the new user error stickers up there too in the red rocket too. jupiterbroadcasting.com/stickers. But enough about that. Let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting. Go to last.ting.com to support the show and take $25 off your first device, or give yourself $25 in service credit if you bring a device. Now, Ting is mobile. It makes sense. No contract, no early termination fee, and you only pay for what you use. And so, Noah, I know you just recently got a new Ting device for the lady, and I'm wondering, did you buy it from Ting directly? Did you bring it? What was your strategy?
I did. I didn't buy it from Ting directly. I bought her last phone from Ting directly. This time we went ahead and ordered a phone off of Amazon. Now, interestingly enough, the phone came at a time when I was gone. And so she actually did the entire migration process herself, took the SIM card out of her old phone, put it in the new one, signed into her Google account. Everything came down. It was like magic. 2 weeks later, the phone just totally dies on her.
Oh.
And so, yeah, I know. So she takes she on her own goes down to the basement, goes down to the bin where I have all of my phones, and I have many, and picks herself out one. Does another migration to this backup phone, puts all her stuff back onto it, is using it. I didn't even notice. And she tells me, she's like, hey, my phone stopped working, so you need to order me another one. So phone 3 shows up, and now she does this migration again. And so she tells me, she's like, I'm really getting sick of messing with these phones. But she's like, Ting makes it really easy. All I have to do is take this. I just have this little card, and it's like, this is my phone, really. And I can put my phone into different machines.
Nice.
And the Google Cloud is working for her, and the Ting dashboard is working for her. So everything is it's a very easy migration process.
You're never dealing with like Ting. You don't have to call in and get them to like approve another IMID or whatever it's called. You put it in there, and as long as it's compatible on their network, and they got a really nice BYOD checker page, it works. And you just pay them for what you use.
Which you don't even need if you're just going to buy a GSM phone. Like you can just buy a GSM phone and then.
Yeah, really. Any modern, they got a whole outline though on their shop page if you want to check it out. And of course, if you buy a phone from Ting, it's unlocked. They don't get in the way of updates or any of that kind of crap. So as soon as your hardware vendor puts out an update, Ting installs it. So like you get a Nexus device, you're getting your monthly updates. Also, for us cord cutters, I always like the updates. I like to check in what Ting does on the blog, and they just posted a guide to new streaming players of 2016. And they do a roundup of the new Roku 6 players, the new Fire Stick from Amazon. Talk about older TVs without HDMI and what some of your solutions might be. And this is actually a $40 solution to that. That's really nice. And they talk about TVs with 4K, TVs without 4K, TVs with 4K with HDR. I mean, this is extensive. If you're a cord cutter, you've been thinking about getting one of these Rokus, check it out. Start by going to last.ting.com, check out their services, try out their savings calculator, and then before you leave, swing by the blog and look at their new post for the guide to streaming players of 2016. There's probably some good holiday gifts in there. Last.ting.com, and thanks to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. There's been a few stories brewing over the last couple of weeks. I don't know. I thought for a while we'd avoid talking about the new MacBooks on the Linux Action Show because they're not Linux. I know. But it turns out there's been a bit of a Linux angle to this that I think... I don't know why it surprised me because I predicted this in our 2016 prediction show, but I was still surprised. And we got 2 different articles, one from Fossbytes and one from betanews.com. And they both essentially say the same thing. They talk about frustrated Apple fans looking at Linux-powered solutions, like the ones from System 76, because Apple's simply not making hardware powerful enough. And I think some of the big things are 16 gigabyte RAM limit, only USB-C connectors, people in testing or trying out like a USB-C connector and their Wi-Fi goes offline. Having systems that have had USB-C, I've had a lot of mixed results with USB-C adapters. I've had an Ethernet adapter turn off when I plug in a USB-C hub. I mean, USB-C is still a bit of a hot mess. Apple users are discovering this now. They're frustrated with the limitations in performance and capability. It's got a woefully underpowered GPU, a 16 gigabyte RAM limitations, we talked a little bit recently about how System 76 has seen a huge response. They've even done like a special shipping offer to take advantage of the additional traffic. Do you remember my prediction where I said I think a certain tier of Mac users are going to get frustrated with the platform? People that make web apps and server-side applications, people that use terminals and text editors, and they want maybe Chrome. They don't need a lot of the stuff Apple's been building into macOS recently, and they don't necessarily like some of the restrictions Apple's putting on there. I know for me personally, 16 gigs of RAM isn't enough because I like to have virtual machines that can perform well. So I like to have multiple VMs sometimes running on my computer, and I run Chrome. So, I mean, really, 16 gigs of RAM is atrocious for me personally in my workload. And I feel like a lot of people in the creative industry feel this way. A lot of developers feel this way. I'm curious what you think of this, and if you think maybe my prediction is kind of coming true now.
I think it's definitely true. But I think if we back up and look at this, this has been in the making for a long time, because I don't think Apple has been serving a lot of their customers incredibly well for a very long time. I think that they have kind of just skimped by making the bare minimum upgrades necessary. And I think they focused a lot of their attention on their iOS devices. And I think that makes sense because Apple has never been a huge player in the desktop space. I mean, they sit there, they're somewhere between 8 and 10, 15%, somewhere like that. And then you got 75%, 85%, 90% of the people that are over in the PC space. And I think what you have, especially with the new MacBook, and Louis Rosman pointed this out in his review of the new MacBook, there are fundamental things that even if you're not one of those people that is a power user of your computer, if you're just a basic guy, you just want to browse the internet and hook your laptop up to watch Netflix on the TV, there are some very big problems. And he demonstrates in his review that there are certain adapters that you plug in, and he could not get the Wi-Fi to work if he had certain models of hard drives, external hard drives plugged into his computer.
My Skylake systems with USB-C have also exhibited this problem. It might not be unique to the MacBook. It might just be a problem right now with USB-C, and that could be a major blow to professionals using the Mac platform. But I just wanted to say,
fine
go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think
I was just going to say.
Okay, go ahead. No, it's fine.
I accept that, except for if the computer had USB-C and then some other USB ports. The problem is the way the Apple model is, they banked everything on a bad technology.
Well, I think the way Apple looks at it is they feel like they legitimately see this is the future, and this MacBook Pro design that they just shipped is going to be probably the one they use for like the next 5 or 6 years, and they're just going to iterate the internals. Probably the next revision will have 32 gigs once Intel ships a CPU at the power profile that they want. The issue is a lot of professionals have tool sets on this platform, so moving is a major hurdle for them. And I really believe like Linux is a great platform because they've already probably switched off of Windows. And I saw Emma from System 76 tweeted like she's getting more phone calls from frustrated Mac users than she ever has in the history of System 76. And Cassidy, who works at System 76 and is seeing all of this, got the idea he also was with the Elementary Project, got the idea to do a series of switching to Linux guides that are just really top notch. I think there's 4 of them so far. I've got them linked in the show notes. It starts out with switching from macOS the basics, and it walks somebody through the process for switching from the Mac platform over to Linux and Elementary OS in specific. And he covers the basics, developer environment tools, creative workflow, and then open source generals and principles for people who might not be familiar with some of this stuff, so they have kind of a better understanding of what's going on. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Let's step up to the plate. This is our Windows 8 opportunity with the Mac platform. We blew it. Vista came along, it was a shit show. And then when Windows 8 came out, it was panned universally. That was the moment for Linux to just jump into action. Nope. And of course, that was when Canonical launched Unity. We had all of the pushback, and people switched to the Mac platform. Exactly. This is so frustrating that this happened. And now, once again, we've been given another opportunity. Instead of from Microsoft this time, it's by Apple. And I think Elementary OS is sharp. They've seen a big spike in their downloads. Some people coming from the Mac say, this is a ripoff. This is Linux. It just copies everything. And other people say, this works for me. It's familiar. I can see they've gone in their own direction. They have a philosophy here, and it works for me. And I got to imagine the other distros are getting some good pickup too. But I think this is brilliant, and a lot of people should be jumping on this. I would love to see like distros come out ready to just load it on the MacBook. Everything's taken care of. All those kinds of things I think could be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, so Sunday night, or no, it was Monday. It was Monday. It was Halloween. I was going back and forth with Emma on Telegram, talking to her about this essentially this movement that we're seeing, because we are really seeing the Linux desktop get birthed to a lot of people and pick up in a way. And I think a lot of us have been kind of turned off to that. This is the year of the Linux desktop thing, and so we don't even pay attention to it. And now I think it's happening, and nobody's paying attention to it. And she was telling me that they had so many emails that at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when everyone else is done, everyone is going home, they're done for the day, they've been answering a flood of calls. Their developers have been up all night trying to keep their website up because they had 100,000 views on their website in the last 24 hours alone. And she said that they had 70 calls that support things, of people that wanted to buy laptops, that had questions that needed to be answered before they could proceed. At 5 o'clock, this is at the end of the day. And she said, I'm not leaving here until we answer every one of these questions, and every one of these people has an answer from our company, because that's how we treat our clients. And I thought, God, never have I been so excited to be able to go on the air and talk about a company like this. I mean, it's a
good time to be making a product that the highest priority is not thinness and lightness. They offer a laptop that meets that category, but they also have a range of products that legitimately challenge some of. They have laptops that are over the top, ridiculously more powerful than the desktops Apple ships now. They have laptops that outclass their Mac Pro, that outclass their iMac, that way outclass. I mean, they have laptops that are way more powerful than anything Apple users can get their hands on. And if they could get something that runs Linux that's supported by a company, I got to imagine I bet Entroware is seeing some pickup, and I bet Dell is selling some of their XPSs too. I mean,
probably not to the scale that System 76.
No, because System 76 has that really high-end stuff.
Well, not only are they really high-end, but they have established themselves inside of the scientific community as being the go-to manufacturer for high-end performance Linux systems. And so if you're a university or you're a research center and you talk to other universities and research centers and say, how are you guys doing this? Their answer is pretty much uniformly, we use System 76 to get this done. And so, the interesting thing is success is where preparation meets opportunity. And System 76 is a company that has spent 10 years preparing to be, as you so eloquently put it at the beginning of the episode, a soft landing spot for people that are coming to Linux. And now all of a sudden, with the utter failure of Windows 10 and the utter failure of the new release of the MacBooks, now you have these people that are jumping off cliffs, and System 76 is there to catch them. And one other thing I'll point out too, because I as you can imagine, the Apple hater that I am, I've been doing a ton of looking around at this, and I was watching another review of the previous MacBook. So not the new MacBook Pro that has come out, but like the MacBook that came out last year. That computer, apparently, they advertise it as a given processor speed, 2.4 gigahertz or whatever, but it actually clocks down to some absurdly low thing like 800 megahertz, unless you put it inside of like a water bin with a thing to keep it cool.
That is not unique to the MacBook Air or the MacBook.
I'm just saying,
the iMacs do that too. The thermals because of fan noise, and because of how thin they are, the thermals are not that good. So yeah. But Apple products, I guess what I'm comparing to is compared to the products with System 76. When they advertise a specific processor speed, you will get that clock speed. I know that sounds kind of crazy to say, but that's the way they feel. It is interesting to see this happening. So as we sit here, the Mac Pro is well over 1,000 days old since they've updated it. The MacBooks have gotten updated, and in some ways they're worse. You get less ports. There's some less functionality. The storage performance is great. USB-C does seem like a good thing long term. But this, by the way, not an ad for System 76. In fact, we're giving all this away because we could have said this in the System 76 ad, and we're saying it now in the news because this is legitimately how we feel on this. This is a great time to be shipping a Linux product. I don't know if the Ubuntu desktop is fully up to the challenge. I think it's pretty damn close. So hopefully, if users' needs and expectations are set properly, they will not find it to be as frustrating. It is. I don't know if I would say it's going to be up to snuff of like the high end, tight pants Mac users. But people are just looking to get work done and need a powerful computer. I think we're set.
Exactly.
Now we've been talking about the Internet of Terrible, or the Internet of Trouble, or Internet of Terror,
or the Internet the way that Chris prefers things.
Wow, dude.
I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm just kidding.
I can't hear you through Simple. No, I'm sorry. You're using too much Simple. I can't hear you.
I set myself up for that one.
All right. So this is Ubuntu's solution for this. Ubuntu Core. We've talked about it a little bit. The new version 16 has launched, and I think they might actually have something here. They're pitching this to IoT vendors directly. They're saying, look, you take care of the software stack. We'll give you an OS with regular and reliable updates. You can schedule and plan around. They're using snap confinement to ensure applications are trusted and only touch necessary data, which has got to be pretty great. They got industry standards and regulatory requirements that they're going to meet for updates and operational security. They are essentially pitching this as the base platform that you use for all of the things, from light controllers to routers to robots and drones. Seriously, all of that, and industrial systems included. And they say that they're going to you'll get something called update control that allows software publishers and manufacturers to validate updates across the ecosystem before they're applied, so you can test before you send them out to production systems. All the updates will be done via Snap, so they're transactional, so you can roll them back, which is kind of a big deal when you're updating end user systems out in the field. The operating system and kernel Ubuntu Core are also delivered as snaps, so the entire platform is transactionally upgradable and rollback capable. And all Ubuntu Core devices from all manufacturers will have free and regular, reliable security updates. Now, what are they doing different than just using a minimal Linux? What are they doing differently than Linux from scratch and using BusyBox or whatever? What they are doing different here is they are taking care of all of the back-end work, working with the hardware drivers, doing the kernel developments, shipping the user land, updating it, making sure it's tested, making sure it can roll back, and snapping up the core applications. They're also going to bundle it with App Store capabilities, so vendors could roll that kind of stuff. And there's a whole bunch more stuff that if you're selling a device that connects to somebody's Wi-Fi to do something neat, you really care about. What I care about here, and I think this is huge, is this could fundamentally change the Internet of Things if anybody that matters actually adopt this platform. Now, they got a bunch of people out there, and Canonical employees that are watching right now will say, well, we got actually a lot of people using it right now. Bullshit. I want to see it on some big products that I can buy on the shelf in Best Buy, because the fundamental thing that we are screwed by right now is all of these little shit devices all over the internet that aren't getting updates, that are getting owned, that are doing DDoSes. It's ridiculous. It is a problem that we caused, we being the industry at whole, caused. We knew that before we even shipped any of these Internet of Things devices, we hadn't figured out how to patch and fix everybody's routers out in the wild. And before we figured that problem out, we decided to put Wi-Fi chips in everything. It's too late. Consumers expect it. It's how the world's connecting. And now we need reliable, updatable software on these things. And you guys have never, ever, ever figured out how to do it right. You've never gotten it right as an industry. Not even Google gets it right. And so Canonical's like, you know what? We've been shipping a system that you use on your cloud, you use it on your most important servers, you got it on your desktops, you got it on your laptops. Let us handle this for you. This, I really feel like, Noah, this could shift security for this entire platform and take it from something that we mock to something that's actually usable, reliable, and secure. Transactional updates, them handling all of that stuff, even the kernel is rollbackable. I mean, that's the kind of thing where you can have a little button. You can have a little button that the consumer pushes, and it just rolls back to the previous snapshot. The entire previous file system's just sitting there ready to go. You just switch over to it. You can have a little button that does it, and it's all taken care of for them. It feels like it would be stupid not to use this. Am I too excited about it? Is it too unrealistic? What do you think?
No, in fact, what I was going to say was if Canonical goes through with this and this actually takes off and the Internet of Things becomes something that is based on Ubuntu and the code is open and we can verify that it's secure and all of those good things. And we know that we have interoperability because it's working off of a common open standard, that people are using. If even half of that happens, I will take back every bad thing I ever said about the Internet of Things, and I will embrace it, and I will love the Internet of Things, with one exception. They have to make sure Wi-Fi works.
And I just want to make it clear, I don't care whose solution it is. If it has all of these things and Red Hat makes it, good. I don't care. I don't care who makes it as long as it's Linux-based and it's something the industry adopts. That's what I want, right?
I mostly agree, but I care to the extent that I trust, as upset as I am after last week's episode with Canonical, I still trust them to make a product with my best interest more than I would trust someplace like Google or Amazon or whoever else. So to that extent, I care. They've
shown in the past they can actually sign partnerships. I mean, look, they've worked with a lot of different phone vendors. They've worked with Valve. They can do this, and it does fit in with a cloud desktop product line. Like it does probably fits in more than the phones do, really, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and
I
it's probably a less tapped market than the phones are too.
Yeah, and one that really desperately needs solved at like a super important to the internet level. So I'd love to see it. Now, something else I'd love to see is Vulkan shipping on Linux. But more than that, I'd like to see vendor support of it. This is quick and short, but it's from Steam Dev Days, and you can watch the whole thing if you want. I got it linked in the show notes. But oh, there's a dog outside that's excited about it too. My neighbors have a dog, and what they like to do is just put it in the backyard and then just leave it out there because
That's great.
That's what you do when you get a dog. You just leave it outside all the time. And never tell it to stop barking either, because it's got to express itself. So this is Steve, right? I mean, you gotta let the dog express
First
itself.
Amendment rights for K9.
So this is just quick, short, and sweet, asking about Vulkan and VR on Linux, and I love it because you got a developer and then another developer enthusiastically chiming in that they're going to jump on too.
Oh, sure. So I forget if I mentioned it, but we're going to be demoing in the social area this afternoon and this evening Steam VR running on Linux on Vulkan with a Source 2 title on Vulkan. So please come check that out. But yeah, we're right now very focused on getting Vulkan in shape for VR, and ultimately also adding multi-GPU support to our engine for VR for Vulkan. So that's kind of where our focus is.
Great. Anyone else?
Yeah, we also, well, for us, VR, as soon as the platforms and the API and the SDK is basically supported, we'll just jump in, since we're almost done with the Cherry 5 feature set.
So we got Vulkan shipping up. We got for some users already shipping, but what's more important is actual developers are getting ready to target, and VR on Linux is nigh. Once Vulkan is settled, VR is coming to Linux, and there's several demos now. We've seen it. That's really cool. And it just gives me a little bit of hope because I've gotten my beak wet with VR. I think it's fun for me. I don't care if it takes off. Screw you guys if you don't like it. I really enjoyed it, I'm not willing to run Windows for it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I'll probably end up using it on a console before I do that.
And the HTC Vive might be the closest I've ever been to saying, man, if there was a reason to use Windows, man, that's it, because it is a sweet experience. It's just not quite there. Mm-hmm. Every time I think about it, I can't stop thinking about the fact that it's running on Windows, and then I can't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Multi-GPU support, Vulkan, and VR could all be in 2017's future. Now, there is a 40-minute talk by a Unity developer who works on Unity, the game engine, and the new Unity editor for Linux, which was talked about a little bit in this video. And she deals with a lot of people that are coming to develop for Linux for the first time. And I thought that was kind of interesting to hear what are the common problems developers run into. And so she just talks about some of this, and here's an interesting tidbit from the entire video. I will link it in the show notes if you guys want to watch all of it.
Usually, Unity games just work. Normally they do. As long as, like I said, the system has the compatible C++ runtime version and the right OpenGL capabilities. We do get, we have analytics that tell us people are using other distributions. I can say for certain, before we shipped Unity support for Linux, I had absolutely no clue that there were so many Arch Linux users in the world.
I love it. Apparently, they hear about the Arch a lot, and the other problem that she says the developers mistake they make all the time is they only ship a 32-bit build, and she says that's just super annoying for Linux users because they have to install all these 32-bit libraries to make that work, and most Linux gamers are on 64-bit systems, so make a 64-bit build.
Most computer users in 2016 are on 64-bit versions. I don't know why that is so difficult.
I was glad she was up there saying that, and she says, if you target the Steam runtime, you make a 64-bit build, it's gonna work for all those Arch users. She's like, you gotta understand, there's a lot more than you expect. So don't shoot for Ubuntu specifically. Shoot for the Steam runtime and make it 64-bit build, and you're good to go. The whole video, if you want to learn, if you're curious about the state of Linux game development using a commercial game editor and the Unity engine, it's an interesting talk, and you can tell they've been working on quite a bit of stuff. So I think next year's going to look even better when it comes to that stuff. That's it, Noah. That's all the news for this week. I tell you what, I am on the edge. I'm about to build myself a brand new NAS, a custom Linux box. I'm not even sure what distro, how many disks I'd toss them all in there. And I have a very unique situation that this NAS has to accommodate. And I thought I had it all figured out. I thought I had it all dialed in. And then I got my hands on this new QNAP for review, And I'm starting to rethink a few things. I'll tell you about that and the unique situation that this NAS has to accommodate. But first, I want to tell you about our segment sponsor making this possible, Linux Academy. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go there to support the show and sign up for a 7-day free trial. This is a platform to learn the nitty-gritty about Linux, all the high, fancy technology built on top of Linux, and even things like Azure, AWS, and OpenStack. Hands-on, scenario-based labs give you experience on real servers. Full-time human instructors when you need help. They have a course schedule where you can pick a course and set a time frame to fit your schedule and learning goals. And the Learning Pass are a series of courses and content planned by instructors for specific career tasks. They have a community stacked full of Jupiter Broadcasting members, public profiles so you can either brag or show an employer or a client what you've gotten done. And I think one of the things that's made it really possible for people to study on the go, besides the downloadable comprehensive study guides, besides the videos and the MP3s you could take with you, one of the nice new things I think is really helping people study on the go is their iOS and Android applications. So go check them out. They also have lab servers. They'll spin up on demand when you need them. They got distributions to pick from where the content of the study guides and the materials and the virtual servers match that. And they have study tools that you get to keep with you. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go there to support the show, /unplugged, and sign up for a 7-day free trial. Linux Academy keeps growing and getting better and better and better every single month and makes your subscription more and more valuable. It's great. Check it out. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. All right, so I take you to the Jupiter Broadcasting Studio on Project Day while I give you my first review and take and setup of the QNAP storage device. Today is Project Day at the JB Studio, and I've got this QNAP here. In fact, I've got a QNAP with some hard drives that I'm about to get into, but first, I'm going to enjoy myself a little nacho taco. Obviously, I haven't opened the box yet, but from what the printout tells me, QNAP has sent me one of their QNAP TS 435A ribs. 435. Yep, that's what matches on the box. And we also have ourselves 4 8-terabyte Seagates. So I'm gonna unbox this stuff and start to get to work. So here's what the front of it looks like. You can see it's got the 4 hot swap bays. But what actually has me really fascinated, it's what's on the frickin' back. Look at that. Do you see what I see? Yeah, there's some Ethernet there. That's awfully nice. But no, look. I don't know if that's picking up. It might be too dark. There's 2 frickin' HDMI ports. 2 HDMI ports, and it looks like microphones in. These are microphone jacks. An external power supply. I'm already kind of intrigued about this box. Seagate NAS hard drives. Smart. 8 terabytes each. Honestly, exactly what I would have gone with myself if I picked them out personally. I'm about to turn it on for the first time, and just for good measure, I've hooked up HDMI and USB as well. I have no idea if it's going to put anything out to the display, but I want to catch it if it does. So I'm going to just connect the power, off to the races. I forgot to plug in the power brick. System is booting. Each drive's lighting up. Now, according to the instructions, I'm supposed to like scan some sort of QR code and then have it discover my QNAP. That feels pretty proprietary. I'm not so sure that's gonna work. We have HDMI output, which makes me think I'm not gonna rely on some sort of weird Windows app to discover this thing. I'm saying no to multimedia features. Select the disk configuration you want. Come on, you gotta see this. Select the disk configuration you want. Create static volumes, create thick volumes, create a thin volume, configure later. Whoa. I like things thick. I also like things static when it comes to my storage, but I need it thin. damn it. I went with static because I don't want to break the drives up into multiple volumes. But look at this here. Please select, so then I can go in and I can either say configure it later or add as a member disk. Obviously, I want to add all of these. Tempted to do a hot spare, but it doesn't look like that's a configuration option. Oh, once you dedicate these to the pool, it automatically allows you to set up hot spares. That's nice. If I was smart, I would do that. All right, I'm clicking next. So we can go with, please select the RAID type. Estimated available space would be 23 terabytes at RAID 5. If I do RAID 6, it's 15 terabytes. And if I do a RAID 10, 15 terabytes. But if I do a RAID 0, 31 terabytes. Oh, that would be so nice. But nope, RAID 5 will be it for us today. Encryption. Nice. Scan bad block. That's also nice. All right, so it sets up with a default admin username, gives me an IP, and tells me my network status. I am not in Casablanca. That is hilarious. Oh, interesting, using extended 4 for the file system. Doesn't seem to be a way for me to get up there and change Casablanca right now, but I'm betting I can change that after setup. Look at that. It's asking me if I want to install the hybrid desk station, which is apparently like a desktop with Chrome and Kodi, and it uses the onboard HDMI to send out to your TV or a monitor. I'm going to skip that because I don't need that, but if you were tight on hardware and you needed an extra system, I could see using this from time to time, or connecting it directly to your television and have it be in your media center with all local playback. I could actually see myself doing that down the road, but for right now I'm going to skip it to keep the install lean. Alright, so we have ourselves, geez, if I could type, we have ourselves kernel 3.19.8. I'm not seeing any sure signs that it's really Ubuntu. It just looks like a really minimal Linux install to me. I imagine some of you are wondering, hey Chris, why a QNAP? I mean, why not just build a rig? Use Open Media Vault or FreeNAS, something like that, or just plain Linux if that's what you really want. And I think you might be right. Why a QNAP? I'm honestly a bit skeptical. I'm curious to see what a product shipping Ubuntu can do, but I have a rather unique situation that I'm trying to make my file server accommodate. I have some future projects coming up that are going to require a ton of storage, but that's not the tricky part. I've got to find a way to put all of that storage in there. You see, the thing about an RV is it's not like there's a master bedroom I could stuff this all into, or a basement, or anything like that. I've got to find a space somewhere in there to fit a lot of storage. And now, because I'm going to try to fit all of this gear under a dinette booth seat that's enclosed, I'm getting more and more concerned about heat. And one of the ways I can reduce heat is by having fewer rigs. Not only that, but these things are going to draw battery power when I'm camping, so less machines equal less power draw. So the QNAP appeals to me because it's apparently, although I haven't tried it yet, supports virtualization using KVM. It supports media hosting. It uses Linux. I'm led to believe, I haven't confirmed yet, I'm led to believe it uses Ubuntu Linux under the hood. So it's all things I might set up on a rig if I built it separately. A NUC attached to a storage control over iSCSI or NFS. This brings it all together in one box, which in theory will draw less power, produce less heat, and give me less things to manage in a tiny space. Ha! I just logged in, I'm installing updates, and I see one of the top bug fixes right here is Dirty Cow. They've apparently rolled this fix out a little bit ago, and I've already got it. That's nice. Now let's take a look at the interface to manage the QNAP. It puts its IP right up on its main screen, so it's easy to figure out what it is. You log in with the basic admin, of course change it later. Okay, we've got 4 drives. They all seem to be working. 10% optimizing, 21 terabytes total capacity. This is a better interface than I was expecting. Gotta take a look at the virtualization guide here in a second, but let's take a look at the control panel. Holy crap, look at all this stuff. Network virtual switch, firmware update, external device, SNMP, domain controller, transcode management. That is so cool. To speed up transcoding process, please go to the App Center and install the Codex pack. Okay. This Codex pack is an advanced proprietary hardware technology that can significantly improve the performance of transcoding tasks on your NAS. Yes, I would like to install that very much. Yes, I would like to. Yes, I want that. Yes, please. I agree to anything you tell me. Holy crap, look at all this stuff. Linux Station? Linux Station is a standard Linux desktop platform that allows you to use QTS while seamlessly using Linux on an HDMI display. Simply connect a keyboard and mouse in an LXC container. So they're sticking a desktop inside an LXC container, so it's not virtualization, it's faster, but it's still contained. Gmail backup, object storage server? QNAP Object Storage Server allows QNAP Turbo NAS to support data access using S3 and OpenStack compatible object storage pools. That is so cool! So you got your standard surveillance camera plugin support, S3 backup support. That's kind of typical for these kinds of things. And of course, your Plex media server. Rosalio Sync, huh? MB. Hey, we got MB. It's got an Etherpad Lite server. It's got an Etherpad Lite server. That's huge. That is huge for me. Oh, man, this is going to save me so much time. All these little things I've been thinking about setting up, and this thing's just got them built in. Virtualization Station. This is it. The Virtualization Station is I'm so excited. I am so excited I can't even speak right now. The Virtualization Station is composed of storage management and virtualization technology and allows you to install VMs on the Turbo NAS running Windows, Linux, Unix, and even Android. Android on my NAS? Now I just kind of want to do it. Virtualization Station allows users to open the data on the Turbo NAS directly through the VMs. Yes! 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 Ooh. Yee! They got a lot of stuff for backup. You know, I think I expected things like Plex and a few backup scripts, but the app availability blew me away. Like, this is the thing I was looking forward to the least on this rig, because I just was going to set up some VMs and install everything myself. But this, I love that it's using LXC containers, and I love the availability. Like, these are really good projects, some of which I've completely forgotten about. I can't wait to play with some of this stuff. And some of these things, it's making me think I could use this NAS for stuff I hadn't considered before. Now the part I've been waiting for, the Virtualization Station setup. Looks pretty straightforward, just a couple of options to configure. I like that I can set up multiple network adapters if I want, so I could have dedicated one of these adapters to the VM. I just don't have it plugged in and activated right now. You know, really thinking about it, I don't think I'll need more than 1 or 2 VMs. With the apps that this thing has available that run in containers, that's probably a more efficient way to do it. So there might only be a couple of things I need in the VM now. This is going to be really, really nice, and most of it's all going to be work specific. All new network design. No need for extra network interfaces or VMs. Look at this interface. This is really slick. So they have default VM configurations for me to pick from. Look at that. A mini would be perfect. Okay, I have my basic virtual machine set up, so now you're wondering what's next? Well, I kind of have a unique opportunity to really test this thing. I'm about to get on the road and go to Berkeley, California for Meet BSD. So I'm going to take this home to the RV, set it all up there, change the defaults like the time zone and the password, and actually production test it on the road, and then I'll report back in part 2 how that went, how it performed, and the limitations I may or may not have ran into. I really have some follow-up I should do too since that review, because it's been a couple of days and I've been plugging away at it now.
And now it's, just to be clear, your follow-up as it's been installed at your home.
Actually, no, I ended up deciding to bring it back to the studio for a couple of more tests, but it's going back there before I go to Meet BSD. Yeah, so I got to get that done before I leave, which I don't know.
Another follow-up question that you didn't address in the video. A couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about doing it, you had talked about moving all of JB's workflow over to the QNAP temporarily.
Yep.
As a method to alleviate so that you could rebuild the FreeNAS.
That's why it's back here. Although with the Meet BSD coming up now, I don't think it's going to be possible. I was going to attempt to do it this morning, but it didn't work. So I want to do it before the show. I know I'm crazy, but I actually wanted to pick your brain on what you thought about the fact that this thing has an external power supply, and I wonder if you think that means I could use DC power to power this thing.
What's the voltage?
You know what? I don't know. I'd have to look. So if that's what it comes down to, is like 12 volts or what?
Well, I mean, so here's the thing. If it has an external power brick, that means that you're converting AC to DC on the outside of the unit. So that means the unit itself is taking DC. That's good.
That's what I was thinking.
So basically what it means is if it's 12 volts, you just plug it in and it'll just work. If it's anything other than 12 volts, you can buy a step up or a step down, voltage step so that you can go from, 12 to 9. But I bet you, here's my guess. It's either 12 or it's 19.
So if I can get DC power to it, then this thing essentially would be using the house batteries as a UPS to a degree. Because otherwise, and this is doable, but so I'm like I said in the video, I'm putting this in a dinette booth, and I am so lucky that the way they designed the home theater system in the RV, they decided to put the sub under the dinette, so they installed an AC power outlet inside the dinette. Like I open up the booth seat, and there's a power plug in the booth seat. I'm like, this is amazing. And because it's on the entertainment system, and they want the TV to work while you're driving down the road, it's on the always on inverter. But there is a half a second switchover every now and that happens when I switch from battery to shore power. And I think that's just enough to screw up a system. So one of the other things I'm going to bring with me when I bring it back to the RV tonight is a UPS battery. And I'm just going to plug the UPS battery into to solve that problem. But if I could get it on DC power, that'd be great. A couple other things I noticed while I had it in the RV for like 2 hours. It has built-in temp monitoring. I was worried about getting too hot in there, and they have a dashboard I can bring up. I can look at all the temps, and I can set alerts and auto shutdown. So that's really nice and solved. The other thing that I ended up turning on, which I'll try to include in the next review if I keep it on, is two-factor authentication, which I didn't realize it has, but it does have that for the UI for the admin interface. Yeah, just to try it. Yeah, why not? I'm just going to try it. The other thing I'm tempted to try is the Linux installation that I can do to use the HDMI port and have it just run Kodi straight out. The thing has a quad-core processor and 8 gigs of RAM. So it's got some room for virtualization. So I'll play more with that. I really haven't bothered because everything I want right now is being solved by the built-in apps. Which,
So digging around a little bit, I noticed they also make, if you want to get just started with a QNAP, they make an entry-level version for $249. It's a 2-bay model. But if you're just looking to kind of play with it, or maybe you don't have any sort of file server, $250 just to get started is not bad. And I would assume, I don't know this for sure, I would assume that the operating system and all of those features are still there. On the less expensive model, you just have less drive.
Yeah. And so it runs QTS embedded Linux on the NAS, and then it runs Ubuntu in the virtual machines or container. You can also do containers, so it's just kind of nice too. So you don't even have to have, if you're just, one more thing, if you're just going to do containers, you don't even need 8 gigs of RAM probably. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Well, for me, I would not want to use, like a stand model like that. I would want something that mounts in the rack.
Yeah.
For $549, they do make a 1U, and it is the what I call, I don't know what the technical name is, but I call them pizza box versions, where it can mount into a 2-post telco rack, which is really nice if you're putting it in like your basement. It's $549. It's a 4-bay module, so I would assume that it's basically the same thing that you have, it's just slightly different oriented.
Yeah. This one also has the 2 HDMI out ports, the microphone in jacks, and an IR receiver. And I didn't bring it in here. It comes with a remote. It comes, so if you do want to use it as your media PC, it comes with a full freaking remote. So that's pretty damn impressive. And I don't think and it has a karaoke app. It has a karaoke app, which I'm thinking about. Could be kind of a cool, I'm not totally sold on this thing yet. I'll see how it runs, but I think I'm going to probably keep it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm probably going to keep it. But because the thing that's nice about it is it has microphone in jacks. So if, like for Christmas, I could get Hadia a couple of microphones, install the karaoke app, and now we have a karaoke machine, which is just ridiculous. But we'll see how, so my intention is to put it back in the RV and then use it to store all of my footage that I'm using for editing for MeetBSD on the road. Nice. And a future project that I have planned, and then I have literally like probably 14 terabytes of data that I want to load on it almost immediately after we try the Studio FreeNAS test, which we talked about in User Error 8. So yeah, that's sort of where it's at right now. So part 2 will be coming down the road when I've actually put it in production for a while, because I feel like I had to break this review up in the experience with it, the unboxing, the setting it up, and then the actual using it, because it can have a great UI and tons of nice apps, and it does have a good UI, which works great in Chrome at least, and has some really great apps. But how well does it actually run? How well can it actually like transcode media for me? Supposedly, by the way, does all the way up to 4K hardware accelerated media transcoding.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't have a 4K TV, but that is it's nice to know that it has overhead, so it should have no problem doing high bitrate 1080p. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The other thing I have to do now is I have to get a little Ethernet network set up in the RV, because everything's been run over Wi-Fi now, but I'm not going to access 24 terabytes of storage over Wi-Fi. That's where I draw the line. So
the infrastructure is technically there. You just got to plug a cable in, right?
what I'm going to do, I want to run it, and I want to run the cable in a way where it doesn't like get caught up in the slide and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm going to use the built-in hub to the cradle point to plug in this. What my plan is, I'll plug in my editing laptop, this QNAP, and maybe the main TV one if I want to run a cable over there, but I'll probably skip that for now. So I'll get all of that set up, and then I'll have some hands-on experience with it. And I'll come back with part 2 of the review and let you guys know how it went. So that is my first look at the QNAP that runs Linux. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. We got some feedback to read, but before we get out of here, I got to say holla to the folks over at System76.com, creating machines that are actually high-end performance machines. Actually, every workload you got. If you're doing some office work, some desk work, or you're doing some high-end editing. In fact, I would like to know, there is a lot of people out there in the audience that have gotten the Oryx Pro with its GTX 10 series GPUs. Oh, yeah. It's surprisingly thin. I'm not going to say it's a thin laptop, but it's got a surprisingly thin design for how much power is in this thing. You can get up to 64 gigabytes of RAM in the Oryx. And I would like to know if anybody out there has ever tried Hackintoshing one of these sons of guns and dual booting it. That's right. I want to know. Have you tried it? Because that'd be a hell of a video editing workstation. Hey, look at that. It's got an SD card reader. Isn't that nice? Apple, you should check that out. And it's got USB. It's got 2 USB-C ports.
On the side.
It's got 2 USB-C ports, too. Did you see that? I think that was USB-C that just went by.
Did you see that Ethernet port?
Yeah, and HDMI out. And is that's 2 Thunderbolt ports, I think, right there. Man, I got to get my hands on the new Oryx. I was like one of the first people to touch an Oryx outside of System 76, and I am totally out of touch with this product, and it's a huge hit in our audience. I got it. System 76, we got to talk. We got to talk because I got to learn. I got to know the Oryx and I also want to try to Hackintosh it. System76.com, go there, get a system built, born, created to run Linux. And in the comment section when you check them out, give us a little credit by letting them know that Noah switched to Linux. Even if you already run Linux, it just makes me smile. That's why we do it. System76.com, and thanks to them for sponsoring L Feedback. Speaking of L Feedback, it comes from David L, and he says, I got a question about a new Linux computer. As my father is soon looking at retirement, he is going to lose access to his work-provided laptop. He's asked me for a recommendation on a new machine. I'm considering possibly moving him over to Linux. Nice. He is technically competent and not afraid of trying something new, but is still more comfortable going with a well-known manufacturer. Immediately, my first thought was maybe the Dell XPS 13, as he's familiar with them, and they offered Linux support out of the box, which is a huge plus. However, after looking into this device, it appears these machines are affected by the content adaptive brightness control. Wow, I didn't even know that. Apparently, that's a thing, and it can't be disabled, and coil whine issues. I don't have the most recent XPS 13, but mine doesn't have any coil whine issues, and I guarantee you I would notice it if they did. He says, outside of System 76 machines, is the XPS 13 still the go-to Linux laptop, or do you have any better recommendations? Thanks. So what do you think about this one, Noah?
I honestly, I might have had some other suggestions or some other thoughts for you a couple of weeks ago, but after watching what has transpired with Apple and after watching how System 76 responds, I think it would be almost irresponsible to say that there is another go-to Linux laptop outside of the lineup that System 76 offers. There are some people that have had some success with ThinkPads. There are some people that have success, installing Linux on some of the older versions of MacBook Pros. And there are people that have success on some of the Asus ones. So you could try some of those. And certainly the XPS is a nice platform. But I think if you really want to get your money's worth and you really want a solid computer, especially if it's going to a user that isn't necessarily familiar with Linux, and you want him to have a Linux hotline you can pick up and just call and say, I don't know how to make this work or that work. Emma answers the phone and she'll be able to walk your dad through exactly what he needs to do. And they are getting more than their fair share of experience this week doing that. So I guess that would be my only recommendation.
I wouldn't, jeez, that dog's back. I wouldn't worry as much about the coil whine issue. I haven't experienced it myself, but you might want to just double check on that. And you can always take advantage of the return policy. Here's where I would draw the line. Is the XPS 13, That dog, man. That dog just distracts me every time. The XPS 13 is probably your best bet if your dad is interested in the 4K display. Linux's 4K support or high DPI support isn't awesome, but it's pretty much usable on every major desktop environment now. And with a little bit of tweaking, you can generally get it set up and working just fine. And if you use Chrome, I don't know so much about Firefox, you're going to be pretty set up. And that XPS 13's edge-to-edge, like Infinity-style display with like very, very minimal bezel and a high DPI resolution is gorgeous. But you do have a 16 gig RAM limitation with the XPS 13. May or may not be an issue for you. And I don't know if it's going to be, if you're just going to go 1080p anyways, and I really think you should probably go System 76 just for that support infrastructure that Noah was talking about. However, as an XPS 13 owner as well, which is not here at the moment, I really love it. And if you're across the pond, of course, you can always check out Entryware. I have the Apollo. It's also a great laptop, and it has USB ports, HDMI, and USB-C, and an SD card reader. So it is possible to put them all in there on a thin laptop. So that's something else you could look at if you're across the pond, David. And let us know how it goes. Send us in some follow-up and let us know who you ended up choosing, because we would like feedback from people that get not just System 76 machines, but Lenovo's and all that kind of stuff. Now, David, since the Linux support is a big one for you, you might want to just give him a call. All right, you want to take James's email?
Yeah, James S. writes in, and he wants to talk to you about GDM orientation. So last week on the Linux Action Show, we talked about some of the issues that I was having with my login display. Now, Chris said that he had similar experiences with his with his login manager, and that it changed the orientation because he has a vertical monitor. So he writes in, and he found a wiki entry in the Arch Wiki that talks about rotating the login screen on a specific display. And he says, let me know if that works. Oh, okay. So, so the link is there. So maybe you can give that a shot on your workstation upstairs and report back and let us know if that fixes your problem.
James. I will. And I hope maybe it'll tell me how I can also set which screen the login manager should be on. I really do like GDM with the GNOME desktop. LightDM's fine. You know, people in the chat room said that they haven't had any issues with it. And Anagross ships it by default. I don't know, man. I just find GDM to be quicker on the login and log out and quicker on the lock and unlock. So if you're on Anagross and you want to look into switching to GDM, I have found it to be worth it. Anagross. So thanks, James, for letting me know. I will take a look at that wiki link. And if you have had this problem where you have multiple monitors and the login shows up on the wrong one or the wrong orientation, find the link in the feedback section of the show. All right, that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. There's just a couple of things we'd like to pass along to you before we go. If you want to submit a project or an open source thing you love, like hardware, it doesn't have to be software, or a news story, or comment on a news story, or even comment on this show, linuxactionshow.reddit.com is the spot to do it. jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact is another place to do it. irc.geekshed.net, pound Jupiter Broadcasting. Wait, pound? Is it pound? I'm thinking of bang.
Me. The term hashtag. Now is hashtag.
That's what I was thinking. Would people understand what a hashtag is more than a pound sign? Because pound sign refers to the phone, right?
Yeah.
Hashtag Jupiter Broadcasting. I don't know, whichever one you prefer. As you can also just engage in the IRC room. Join us live over at jblive.tv on Sundays. We do it noon Pacific, but you can get it all converted at your local time at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. He's at Kernel Linux. You can follow his business at Altispeed. I'm at ChrisLAS, my personal account, and the network account is at Jupiter Signal. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, and we'll see you right back here next week. I want an Oryx Pro. I want an Oryx Pro, and I want to run Final Cut on it. I wonder how Hackintoshable. I wonder how Hackintoshable it would be. Because that's really the perfect setup for me. Is a couple hours a day. I might need Final Cut, and then where are you going? You're just walking into the. I'm not saying I would run it all the time. I'm saying I go in there, I do Final Cut, and then I reboot. I do that now. That's how I'm doing it now. I've given up on Kadian Live for a little while. I'm taking a break, and I'm going to come back to it in about a month or two, or in the next release.
Listen, I can't give you a whole lot of crap because, like, you have taken, like, I have seen personally, I have seen you fight battles in Kadian Live that, like, I was quite sure you were going to give up hours before you actually gave up. So I was like, really, like that one time when you got through like the entire project,
yeah, man,
and like fought through the entire thing, and then even the next day, even when nothing worked out, you're like, well, maybe there's some way I can salvage it, maybe, and whatever. Like, can't really blame you for trying. So pretty hard to hold you responsible then.
Too bad there's no good hardware.
So when you start talking about adulterating a perfectly good laptop, then I have no choice but to speak.
I feel like if I could confirm that you could Hackintosh an Oryx and successfully dual boot Arch and like a tiny Mac OS installation, I feel like it almost, with Bitcoin up over $700, I feel like it would be worth it for me. I know, it's crazy, but then I'm not using a MacBook. Isn't that better?
That's true, but my problem with the MacBook was never that the Mac doesn't. It's not like I have something against glowing white apples with silver hardware. That's not my problem with it. My problem with it is it makes it too damn easy to run Mac.
It's part of it. It's part of it.
Well, yeah, okay. It's part of it in that other people see it, they walk by, and then they go, "Oh, there's an apple."
Yeah.
Like that part of it. You know.
See, I think a Hackintosh makes it even less appealing to run Mac OS that often because it's probably not going to be as reliable or stable. So it would encourage me to still have access to the tools, but use Linux more and not.
All right. I tell you what. I'm pledging the first $200 towards your Oryx Pro when you buy it.
I gotta know if it runs. I gotta know if it's Hackintoshable or not. And don't ask me if I've talked to the Katie and Live developers chat room. This you have to understand. This conversation that no one and I are having.
Chris, they filed a bug.
I gave one of the developers a response in the subreddit, but you have to understand this conversation that I'm currently having is the 300th iteration of this conversation, and one of the fundamental issues I have is the audience that's watching this does not do this work. And just like I don't know what a doctor does when they're doing heart surgery, or what a mechanic's doing when they're fixing my engine, or what my plumber does when they fix that toilet, I could guesstimate because I'm a smart individual and I think I could probably figure it out, and I like to troubleshoot problems, and I could probably guess my way through a lot of it. But I simply not knowing how they work, what it's like to work, all of that, you lack so many insights, and I don't mean to be insulting about this, but the questions I get, they span the range from, have you filed a bug, as if filing bugs could fix 7 to 8 years of feature gaps. Then I get the question, have you tried this Mac OS emulator? It's like wine, only to run Mac apps on Linux, and if you just go to the project's website, it says it doesn't support GUIs, so that's a decade off if they ever even get GUI support. And then I get questions about, well, have you tried this editor? Have you tried Blender? And it fundamentally betrays a lack of understanding of what this kind of work is, how you do work, what it's like to work with these tools, what it's like to work in an industry where there's industry supports and professionals that have knowledge and templates that are made professionally and ready done for you. All of this stuff, nobody has any insights into if they don't do this kind of stuff professionally, and then they sit there and they give me suggestions on what I should be doing, and I'm here to tell you that as the host of the Linux Action Show, I have looked into all of the possibilities, and it saddens me to say it, but there's nothing that fits the bill except for Final Cut or Premiere, and there's no fucking way I'm switching to Windows just to get away from Final Cut. That would be madness. So I'm left with a laptop from 2013 that I dual boot Arch and Mac OS on, so that way I have a functional video editor, and it drives me crazy. And that's why I'd like to be able to get an Oryx and Hackintosh it. If you got a home movie of the holidays and you want to cut it up and post it up on Facebook.
That's not fair. There are Hollywood-grade videos that are cut in Lightworks. In fact, they advertise them all the time, right? So I don't think it's fair to say.
You say that.
They say that. It's on their website.
Yeah.
But
I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't.
Really?
I mean, maybe like the trailer was cut in Lightworks, or maybe a specific scene was sub-edited out to a contractor and they edited in Lightworks. I don't buy it. I really don't buy it.
Okay.
I don't buy that, and it's all crap. It's such shit. And the thing is that it is an offensive piece of shit too. It's not even like, it is fucking offensive. The UI on that thing is offensive. The way it takes over your machine is offensive. The licensing structure is offensive. The fact that it's stuck in, and not just like when Lightworks came at it with this tape-based clip, old nomenclature, all this old baggage, like when we first started looking at Lightworks, it's like, oh, that's quaint. Now it feels like it's been 10 years since anybody has actually shot and edited video that way, and they still base their entire editor workflow around that. And then you go to Katie and Live, where the interface is slow and clunky, and the toolkit is clunky, and these developers are creating great software, and X11 is shit, and the toolkit is shit. I want you to understand that I am talking about as a platform, we have issues. I'm not, and then we're gonna go over to Wayland, and everything's just gonna be fine. All my video editors are just gonna work great. right under Wayland? Bullshit. So we don't have a toolkit that's fast enough unless all this shit gets GPU accelerated. When I'm dragging around, I should be able to move two 1080p 30 frames per second clips around on a timeline and not have my UI go when I do it. It's ridiculous. It could all be GPU accelerated. That movement of the clip from there to there, GPU accelerate that shit. But you can't because the toolkit is shit. It's not good enough. So they have to work with the limitations of what the desktop offers them. So Lightworks is offensive on every single level. And then you have KDN Live, which seems to be restricted by all of the technology around it and the fact that it's still new and early. I'm telling you, the gap here is so bad that I've been thinking about it. I just think I'd give up editing than use anything else. And I have a lot of good content in me that I want to do in video and I want to edit, and I don't want to stop doing video. So I think it's come down to doing video or not doing video. And if I'm going to do video, then I just want to fucking get to work. This is such bullshit. This is such a bullshit thing to even be worrying about. I've got work to do. Like, why am I wasting so much time, energy, and money not just working and instead pumping it into projects that might not even be around in 2 years, or trying an editor that I know I'm never going to like because it's fundamentally a piece of shit, Lightworks. Why waste my time? Why do that?
Hello?
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you're on air. Have you ever heard of chicken and waffles?
I've been listening to the episode.
Okay, I got another idea. I have another idea. I know a true Southern gentleman.
You're gonna call somebody? All right, I'm just gonna sit back and eat my potato chips while you. All right. This is the thing for me now. I'm just gonna sit here and chew while you.
There we go.
Is it somebody I know?
Yeah. See if you recognize the voice. Is he really not gonna answer?
What app is that?
Hangouts.
Should do duo. That'd be funny. All right, news. Noah, quit screwing around.
I'm sorry. I had a story I had to tell you.